Good afternoon. It's us again. Say hello, Bev.
Hello.
We're back. Just seeing if everybody's joining in. Just let us know that who's Eddie D'Souza? Eddie D'Souza? I'm going to have to ask you who that is. That's very weird. Got a random person who's joined our stream, but never mind. Good afternoon, Nigel and Brian and Charlie and everybody else who's watching in. We've got a random person has joined the stream, and I'm not really sure how they've got the link. But anyway, back by popular demand. I quite agree. Hi, Ivor. So today I'm going to do very little. I'm just going to bring in some guests, and we're going to just walk you through how to create an applicant profile and well, Lucy can explain it better than I can, so let's bring her in. Lucy, good afternoon.
Hiya. You're right.
Yeah, not too bad.
Hello,
how are you?
everyone.
You all right?
Yes, I'm very good. Oh, there's a pop-up. Eddie is Arts Council staff.
Oh, okay.
Exciting.
Excellent. Brilliant.
Bring them in.
It's good to be told.
Questions. Yes.
Brilliant. Okay. So, Lucy, what are you going to do this afternoon?
I am going to share with you a beautiful presentation about how to sort out your user profile and your applicant profile on Arts Council England's Grantium system. We're very, very lucky to have a couple of Arts Council people here to also offer insights and advice, particularly David, who's one of the people who actually works kind of in all this back end stuff, and is one of those amazingly helpful people who you phone up and go, I can't know what to do, and I've pressed a button and I'm stuck in a loop, and they're always very calm and kind and don't talk to you like you're an idiot, because you feel like an idiot when you phone the helpline. And we've also got Adrian, who many of you will know is one of the music officers at Arts Council England. We're not going to be able to answer many questions about the fund itself because the new guidelines isn't out yet. So we're going to focus on getting yourselves registered, and we're just sorting out a date to do another one of these about the fund when it is relaunched. So shall I just crack on, share my screen, and hope that works? Right.
I can control that and take myself out.
Okay.
But can I just so that we don't get bogged down with too many questions, Adrian, we were just discussing. We think the guidelines will be out for the relaunch supporting Grassroots Live Music Venue Fund soon.
Yes. Yes.
We don't want to commit to a date. I appreciate that, but we think it will be probably either later next week or the week beyond that, certainly.
I would think so, yeah.
Yeah, and then the launch date, the relaunch date is 22nd of July, correct?
It absolutely is. Yeah, that's when it's open. So you can apply from the 22nd. Yeah.
Can apply from the 22nd. Okay, so just for everybody's benefit who's tuning in, this is to make sure that you are registered on the platform and be able to access everything as it's released. We were just having a chat before we came online about we'll probably try and do a run through the new guidelines, and we're not quite sure when that will be. It may be right towards the end of next week, or it may be the beginning of the week after, but we'll certainly try and do that as the guidelines are released as quickly as we can, as soon as we understand what they are. And then we're chatting with Arts Council at the moment. I won't make Adrian commit to it while he's sat online, but we're going to try and see whether we can also get you some support directly from your relationship managers in the regions as you're completing your applications, or as you're filling your applications in. So we'll try and get you some one-to-one time as well. So that's kind of our process. This is part one, making sure you're all registered properly, that everybody in our whole network is registered to make applications. Part two will be information when the guidelines come out. And then the final part will be part three, some more support from Lucy and from me and other people that we have that are helping with funding, hopefully supported by relationship managers from Arts Council England, without making Adrian commit to that right now. Do you want to nod your head? Yeah, got you.
We'll also be updating all of the guidance that we've done last, I don't know what year it is, 2019. So a lot of that will still be relevant. So if you've still got your eyes on those guidance that we put out at that time, a lot of the fundamentals won't change.
Okay, so there's no really need for me to be in here. I'm clogging your space up. So what I'm going to do is, if you want to share your screen, Lucy, with the presentation.
Right. Let's see if I can do this. Where have I opened it? Oh, it's over here. Oh, an infinite loop. There you go. Whoa, right. Here we go. So,
I'm sorry, just before you get started, Lucy, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and monitor the comments.
Thank you.
And I'll just keep an eye on those and see if there's anything that I need to jump back in and ask, or whether we want to save anything to the end. Okay.
Brilliant. So this session is about registering for Grantium. If you already have applied to Arts Council for the Supporting Grassroots Live Music Fund, for project grants, or for the Emergency Fund, you will already be registered. So you can go and have a cup of tea and go somewhere else. If you haven't registered for Arts Council England or applied for them for funding before, this session is for you. The updated guidance, as we just said, are not available yet. The guidance on how the new 1.5 billion fund will be distributed is not available yet. We won't be talking about either of those today. But as Mark said, we'll be hosting further webinars and supply guidance as soon as that is available. So, there we go. So, in terms of the Supporting Grassroots Live Music Fund, the previous Arts Council guidance is still available on their website. We'll put this presentation into somewhere in the MVA page once we're done, so you can click these links later. So you can go and have a look at those, and the guidance that we made previously is also still available, so you can go and have a look at that. So there are these 5 steps in getting your application started. So, I'm going to use the pointer. I've never done that before. So we're going to talk about this one here. Step 1, creating your user account for you. And then step 2, creating your applicant profile, number 2. So that the validation.
Lucy, you've lost the share screen.
Oh no! Oh, sorry everybody. Let me get that back up.
Won't let you use the pointer.
Oh, I was getting all flashy there. Okay, let's do it again. Sorry everybody. Technical difficulties. Right. We're going to go back into my infinite loop. I quite like that. Right, so let's go from there. So don't use the pointer, Lucy. So the validation, the reason we're doing this now is because the validation period can take kind of 5 to 10 days. So I'll explain what that is later. But the reason we want you to go off and create your user account and applicant profile now is so that you've got time for the validation period to happen, so that you can then start the eligibility questionnaire and your application on the 22nd of July, if you're ready to go then. So first of all, creating a user profile. So you go to this URL.
Lucy, sorry. Whenever you click onto next slide, for some reason it's ending your share.
Oh, sorry.
This is a pain,
but I'm really sorry. Let me get it up again. Oh, sorry, everyone. Right. Right, is it back again?
It is, yeah.
Okay, brilliant. So go to that URL, and there's a button there that says create user profile. You click that button. You then fill in all your details here about who you are, you as an individual, and you're creating your user account for you as I said, an individual. The applicant profile is the organization, and we'll go on to that in a minute. So once you've created your user profile, you need to ensure that you are still logged in. So as you can see here, this is logged in as Music Venue Trust. So that is the username. And when you want to click to create your applicant, you click on Applicants. Once you've clicked on Applicant, you need to click on this little thing that looks like a little piece of paper with a plus in order to add a new applicant. Now, obviously on this profile, because it's Music Venue Trust, it has already an applicant in it, Music Venue Trust. So once you click on that add, you then get to choose whether you're adding an applicant profile as an individual or as an organization. So obviously you're creating an organization, so you click on that one, which is a little drop down, and so it says individual organization. You put the choose organization and put the applicant name in, and then click save and back. Once you've gone there, you've got the applicant name, applicant profile. As you see, MVT have got 21 projects in there. And then you click on open. And then what you basically are walked through is a whole load of different information that you need to put in. So one thing to say, when you put in your applicant name, that must be the legal name of the organization, or if you're applying as an individual, of you as an individual. Can't be a stage name, professional name. It's got to be the actual name. I know there's lots of organizations who the venue has a one name and they're trading as something else, but basically it's so that when they give you your grant, the name on the applicant profile is the same name as on the bank account. Obviously, if your venue is called something, but you're run by another organization, you have to put that organization's name in, and you just explain in your application that the venue is called something else. So they will ask you a whole load of different things, stuff that you've normally got to hand, your contact details, financial information. One thing to mention about governance documents is this has tripped quite a few people up, because some people have not realized that as limited companies you do have governance documents. If you're not sure where they are, what they are, you go to Companies House, you find your entry for your own company, you click filing history, I believe it is, and within the list of things that are there will be your memorandums and articles of association. That's your governance document. Sometimes they're listed as separate, sometimes they're all kind of merged into one, but if you don't have it to hand, that's where you can get it and have it ready for this. Monitoring information, which I'll come to in a bit. David flagged that up as something that often also trips people up. And then your declaration, you know, yes, I believe all this information to be true. So on the monitoring information, David kind of was keen for us to highlight that you need to make sure that you have the same number of people represented in each monitoring section of the information. So if you said, you know, there are 3 people, but you only put 2 against the disability section, it's not going to allow you to complete your profile. In the disability section, there is a field for not deaf or disabled, and that's where you would fill it in if nobody is. So that's how you'd make sure that those numbers add up. If nobody has a different gender from what was assumed to be at birth, you put 0, and make sure you're answering yes, no on how your organisation is led. So I think the questions are, off the top of my head, it's like, are you BAME led? Are you disabled led? So make sure those have yes, no's. Because once you've filled in those bits of information, you've got your applicant details, your address information, monitoring information, is if one of them isn't done correctly, you'll get this screen up, which shows you which bits are correct with your nice green tick and which ones aren't with your red cross. Very helpfully, it tells you what's wrong with the red cross, and then you can click on that note and it takes you through to the place in your form where it's incorrect. It does also do this in your application forms and processes. It's incredibly useful, because sometimes you go through the form and you just don't realize what you've done wrong. So this highlights what you've done wrong, and you can click on that link and it takes you to where you've made a mistake. And then once all those ticks are lovely and green, you can then click the complete button at the bottom. So just a few tips for generally doing this. Make sure you click save and next, because you don't want to lose any of the data. After 15 minutes, it will time out. So again, you know, if you don't have all the information in front of you, maybe make sure you've got it ready next time. You know, go away and get that information. You've got to fill in the things with a star, the asterisks. And then once you've completed that applicant profile, they will then begin the validation process. One of the things they have to do in that validation process is essentially ensure that there isn't another organisation with that name registered on the system. And I think my understanding is that, and David can tell me, that that's a manual process, which is why it can take up to 10 days. Obviously, things are very busy at the moment, which is why they're taking a bit longer. I think some of the guidance says 5 days, but things are very busy right now. And once it's validated, you then receive an email, and then you can start your application. You can then start to connect your applicant to other users. You know, if there's 2 or 3 of you in an organization, you can all have your own user profile, and you can all connect to one one applicant. And there's absolutely fantastically detailed and clear guidance. So I've put some useful links at the end of this, which I'm going to, as I said, upload the whole thing. That's how you get to Grantium. The information on Grantium on the Arts Council website is linked there, and there's kind of 6 sections you can work your way through. But they have really very clear, like, press this, press that, a bit like I had there. They have a screenshot and an arrow, and press this and then do that guidance. So there's a how to create and manage your user account profile one. There's a pre-application support, how to understand the guidance. There is also ones on actually how to make the application. So they're very long documents, but because they talk you step by step, incredibly useful. And you can always use a Control F, like, how do I do this, to find that in the information. So that's my last slide. So I'm now going to press the correct button, I hope, to get me out of this, as I keep seem to be. Have I done that? Press the wrong one? Press the right one. Yay! Press the right one. So it, you know, it shouldn't be that scary and complicated. It's just sometimes the language on there doesn't feel like, oh yes, that's what I would press if I was trying to do blah. But that's why they've got really fantastically clear how-to guidance for you to use. Okay, is there anything I totally got wrong there, David, or missed out?
No, spot on. Spot on. Yeah, it's a really good guide. So if they follow that, there should be no issues. But if they do have issues, they can contact us. Just drop us an email and we'll respond.
We've got a bunch of questions that come in. Can you have? Can the application be saved as you go?
Yes,
it can.
Yes, it can be. And actually, the Grantium system times out after 15 minutes. So if you're working in an area and you haven't clicked save, it's best to do it every 5 or 10 minutes, because if it times out after, you lose it. It won't save the information.
Okay, and then second question, can you have multiple applicants on the same login profile, e.g. 2 separate companies run by the same person?
Yes, you can. So there are user accounts and there are applicant profiles. So you can have as many users attached to an applicant profile, which is essentially the organization, as you need.
Okay, and you can be one person who is associated with different applicants. So it might be that you're, I don't know, the promoter of one venue and the owner of another, and you're allowed to access both of those through your user profile. But you have to be authorized. That's one of the things in some of the other guidance. We haven't gone through how you add other users to the profile in this conversation, but it's in one of those guides. Okay. I think it's to make sure, you know, that there's different things people can see, and it might be that you want some of your staff to access some of it, but not other stuff. So you can kind of let people in and out as you need.
It's kind of the same question. An individual can have more than one organization, correct? Yeah, that is correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then some really good detailed questions, actually. Can a disabled person self-qualify the disability, or do you need some documentation?
There's no documentation required, so it's just self-certification. That's fine.
Great, good.
And just another comment on the monitoring information. It's not used to assess the application in any way, shape or form. It's just for the data purposes, so that would never affect the outcome of an application.
I think that's worth just really emphasising that point, David. You're not trying to assess anything in this part of the process. What you're just doing is you're just trying to learn what type of people are applying, where they come from, that kind of stuff. Correct?
Absolutely. Correct? Yeah, that's right.
And when you come to do an application, when you do your eligibility and then you do your application, it does check that all of the information you put in to your applicant profile is up to date. So it might be, say you're a charity and some of your board has changed, you know, you would have an opportunity, obviously we're very short timescales now, but say you did another application in a year, you would have an opportunity to update that monitoring information if it was no longer up to date, or, you know, people had moved on or new people were involved.
Well, and you know, Adrian and David, is it like worth people just sort of making sure their applicant profile is continually kept up? Because you don't really need to do that in an application, do you? You can do that in the applicant profile, the monitoring information, correct?
Yeah, that's right. They can update the profile at any time. It's always best to keep it up to date. It's more for when we're issuing payments. If things aren't up to date, then it could get flagged at that stage. So it could delay a payment. So if it's kept up to date, that's ideal.
Okay. Matt Ong's got a very important question. Do you need to pick a program to apply for to start your application profile? As there are no relevant programs to apply for, so I can't create an application profile ready for when the new fund launches. David, I think you had an answer for that.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
so-
why I did it. Yeah, go on, sorry.
No, you go, Lucy.
No, well, that's why we laid it out in the way we did in that in the slides, because if you click on applicants and not browse programs, you immediately can. So if you click browse programs, you then have to pick one of the funds, which isn't an option yet. But if you just click applicants, then you can create an applicant profile.
Yeah, that's right. But if Matt has selected a program, it doesn't matter if it's not the one that he's going to be applying for. It'll still create the profile.
So basically, I mean, there's two answers there. One, you can actually just click applicant, and the second answer is you can actually browse programs, pick any of the programs, and it will make you do an applicant profile. Great. Okay,
yeah, that's right.
Very good. What do you suggest to use as a governance document if the venue is owned by a sole trader?
Sole trader. Good question.
Hmm.
There's an information sheet.
I don't know.
Just let me grab something.
And there's one here for Adrian, actually. These are like questions moving on. While David looks that one up, will the fact we've been unable to spend the Sporting Grassroots live music grant for programming performances this summer be an issue with applying for a different amount for a different purpose?
No, it shouldn't be. But I mean, with the existing grant, obviously, lots of people are repurposing their grants they're sitting on because obviously things have changed. So you should probably be in touch with us about that. I mean, you can hold multiple grants at the same time, but you would probably want to, at the very least, have your existing one. It'd be quite clear what you're doing to deliver that before you apply for another one. But so I suppose the short answer is no, it's not an issue. But don't just leave your existing grant sort of hanging. You should get in touch and tell us how you're repurposing it if that's what you're doing.
Well, I think
and also don't close it if you're not ready. I helped a venue who had misunderstood there's automated things that come out of the system that says you should now be reporting, essentially. Now it's time for your report. And so they thought that they had to report. So they did, but they hadn't spent all the money because they hadn't finished the project. So, if you haven't finished the project, don't do the reporting. Just have that conversation with somebody at Arts Council. They totally get what is going on right now. They will help you work out a way to pause it or repurpose it.
It'll be because those dates for the report will be an automated thing based on your original application, and of course things change. So but
I would reiterate, talk to them, ask the question.
David, any idea on the sole trader document?
Yes, the sole trader wouldn't need a governance document, so it's only organisational profiles that need the governance document. If it's an individual profile, they can apply on behalf of the venue, and they wouldn't need to provide that.
At the beginning, where Lucy was choosing organisation for the applicant profile, you would select individual, then you don't need to provide a governance document.
Yeah, the individual profile contains less information.
Okay, that's very good. Matt Ong has found the link to create the applicant section now, so we've already achieved something this afternoon. There we go. We're one person ahead. Widgeon Theatre, but if I already have a user profile and an applicant profile for the organisation, does that mean this is all already validated, or do I need to redo the applicant profile for the organisation for this funding application?
They don't need to redo it.
Okay, so
or any future funding round, or whatever you're applying to. No, once you've got a profile, you've got a profile.
Question here: as Arts Council like to see successful past applications, is this track record rated in the individual applicant's profile?
No, it's not, and it's not actually. I mean, a track record counts for something, but of course, everyone has to start somewhere. So, it's perhaps not as important as you might think. But it's certain. The answer to that is certainly no. It's not registered as some kind of rating. No.
Okay, good. This seems to have gone remarkably well. Why aren't you all being as awkward as you normally are when we ask you to fill in forms?
Well, Lucy's put together such a good presentation. It answered all the questions.
You're surrounded by professionals. It's gone very smoothly.
Right. This discussion, this thing will sit in the MVA Facebook group, so that you can log in and view it at any time. Basically, if there are further things that come up as questions, we'll bounce those over to Adrian and David and get answers for those and answer those within the group. Unless anybody else has any other questions that they want to send us, which I'll just hold on because there's always a lag in these things. It takes about 20 seconds to get from our broadcast.
I'll stick a PDF of the slides in the
group as well.
Yeah.
That'd be good. There's a couple coming in. We're now a CIC rather than a limited company. Well done, the 100 Club, who've become a CIC. That's brilliant. Wow. Do I need to create another account?
No, they can change it within the applicant profile. So they've got options for limited company, charity, CIC. So they would change it within that.
Okay, so they basically go into that. Ruby, you go into your applicant profile and you change it to be a CIC and enter the new registration details, correct?
Yeah.
Perfect. How do we deal with a company with one signatory?
Okay, so if it's a bank account that's only got one signatory, what we'd need would be a letter from the bank confirming that it was a single signatory account.
Okay,
so they don't need that at the time for application, but if they were awarded funding, they would need to complete a bank details form. And it's at that stage that they'd ask for something that confirmed there was only one signatory on the account, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. Okay, so basically it's a later on confirmation rather than in this part of the registration.
Yeah.
Great. If we have a profile but are having issues with sign-in details, how do we get that sorted?
Okay, so if they've just forgot the username or the password, they can email in to the inquiries team using the email address that's registered with the account, and we'll be able to send them a password reset and confirm the username.
And I think, David, actually that brings us neatly. I mean, me and Lucy have done this for years, and I think actually people don't really use the inquiries line enough, if I'm honest, do they? I mean, I know your team is massively overrun, and that probably feels like a funny thing to say, but actually, generally speaking, you're not a faceless body when it comes to the inquiries line or the relationship managers, Adrian. It's actually worth trying to flag things like that up with somebody who will tell you how to do it, correct?
Yeah, definitely. At the moment, because we're working from home, the helpline isn't open to receive phone calls, so it's email only. But definitely, if there's any issue, drop us an email, and we respond generally the same day.
I've been stuck in infinite loops of pressing the wrong button, having used Grantium a lot. I've applied, and supported a lot of our organisations to make applications, and made a phone call when you can make phone calls, and it was just the most daft button that I'd pressed or unpressed, or I pressed the wrong button and I'd got stuck in a loop of not being able to do something, and the person at the end of the phone was just nice and kind and calm, and that's really what you need. I think I wouldn't hesitate to ask a question. Asking a question isn't going to be like a black mark against you so you don't get funding.
Definitely.
Ask the question.
Okay, and there's a few more like really good precise ones here which are actually reflective. Bob asks, we started an application last year. Is it possible to park or delete that one and start afresh?
They don't need to worry about it. It'll just sit on the system. They can request to have it deleted, but it doesn't have any impact on any other submissions. So I would just start a new one fresh. That's fine. And they can export information from applications that are partway through, and they can just copy and paste details over if that's useful.
Excellent. And Adrian, one for you there, which is basically, if I was offered the emergency grant already, which was somebody who applied to the emergency fund, which was offered towards a specific project, am I able to still apply for this funding application on the 22nd of July? Which I think that's worth covering. I mean, I know we're going to both nod our heads and say yes, but I don't think people understand this very well. So could we just get you to run through it? You can only make one application at a time and have it being assessed at a time, but you can hold multiple awards, correct?
In terms of project grants, yes, absolutely. You can, but I mean, and again, the emergency grant, what they're suggesting it's for a specific bit of activity. But yeah, absolutely, you can have that as well. Doesn't preclude you from applying for this new run of the venues fund.
Yeah, and I mean basically, but what that goes right across all of your funds. You make an application, you submit it. While it is submitted and before you have not heard the answer, you cannot make another application. Is that correct?
It's definitely true for project grants, but not necessarily. For different programs, there might be overlap. But absolutely for project grants, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And the Sport and Grassroots Live Music Fund is a project grant. So
yes, it is. Yeah.
Good on that. Okay.
Which doesn't mean that you can't, if you want to, apply. I mean, I work with an organisation who basically got one of the Grassroots Live Music Fund grants and then asked permission to go in again. So in the interim period, whilst that one was being assessed, we were able to write another bid for a different set of things that they wanted to do and get permission to go into that fund for a second time.
Okay, that's good. It's worth knowing. Brian Barnes has forgotten his personal confirmation answer. How does he change it?
He lost it, and then he lost it again.
Yeah, lost it again while we were online.
Exciting.
Yeah, if he sends an email through from the registered email address, we can reset the password and he can go in and change the question.
Great. Okay. Answer. Jolly good. Right, I think we might have wrapped that up in 31 minutes.
Wow. Even with me pressing the wrong buttons on my
screen. Listen, as usual, I'll conclude by saying, honestly, like David and his team and Adrian, the relationship managers, are extremely helpful. If you need help, then do ask for it. They're here trying to give you help to make sure everybody's registered. As we've already said, Adrian, I think as soon as the guidance comes out, we'll try and if you're happy, we'll try and bring you back to do this again with Lucy, and do that as soon as we can after the guidance comes out. We're not sure when that'll be, so let's hold off announcing when we might do that. And then, as everybody in the group knows, we will of course be here to support you to do your applications, and we'll try and arrange with Arts Council to get some one-to-one time with relationship managers across the country as well. Depends on their availability. I know that everybody's quite overrun. But hopefully that's got you all registered. Stares into camera. If you are not registered on the Arts Council England platform, you need to be registered. Even if you're not intending to make an application right now, get yourself registered because you don't know when they'll announce something that you do need to be registered for. This thing is unfolding all the time. It's great to see the Supporting Grassroots Live Music Fund back, but there's also going to be other funding that may be administered by Arts Council, we understand. So please get yourself registered now, in case Grantium ends up being the platform you think, and in case you think of a great project that you should be having funded. So please try and get involved. Please don't sit there thinking, I'll just wait and see how everybody else gets on. This is a crisis, and actually there's some funding available for you to do things and to get people back working. So please get involved and get yourself registered. Anything to add to that, Adrian?
No, absolutely. Just do it. Why wouldn't you? Do it now.
Rousing speech. Okay. Listen, thank you very much to David and to Adrian, as always to Lucy. Thank you very much for everybody for joining in. And we will now wave at you while I press the end broadcast button.
Bye.
Have music outro, surely.